Hola amigos, bien o no, saludos desde Medellín y hoy yo voy a compartir um, una, un texto que estoy leyendo. Y como ustedes saben, um, libros desde historia son mis favoritos. Ese es uno de mis libros favoritos en este tema. En este libro hay un texto escribiendo casi 900 años antes. Con el señor dice John of Salisbury o John de Salisbury. Dice una descripción filosófica con la diferencia entre un tirano y un príncipe. So it's the difference between a tyrant and a prince. En verdad, este texto que este señor escribió, como dice, más que 900 años en el pasado, lamentable, poco relevante por el clima político hoy en Colombia. Pero yo voy a leer, usted puede pensar y tomar su decisión, listo. So, today I'm going to share with you something I was reading anyway, because this is a book I rather enjoy. Books on history are one of my favourites, and this is one of my favourites amongst those. This particular piece of writing I was reading the other day, is a book that was written by a gentleman called John of Salisbury. John was born in 1120, so very nearly 900 or more years ago. A very interesting scholar, very famous scholar of his time, and he's written this essay. I'm going to read you a few parts from it, which is called The Nature of a True Prince. And obviously we must remember back in his time, the 12th century, princes really were like, like governors or presidents we have today. So even though he wrote this a long while ago, given the political difficulties we're having in Colombia at the moment, it's surprisingly contemporary. But I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions from it, but I'll share it with you because it's a very interesting piece of writing anyway. So, The Nature of a True Prince by John of Salisbury from the 12th century. The Prince and the Law. Between a tyrant and a prince, there is this single or chief difference, that the latter obeys the law and rules the people by its dictates, accounting himself as but their servant. It is by virtue of the law that he makes good his claim to the foremost and chief place in the management of the affairs of the commonwealth and in the bearing of its burdens. And his elevation over others consists in this, that whereas private men are held responsible only for their private affairs, on the prince fall the burdens of the whole community. Wherefore deservedly there is conferred on him and gathered together in his hands the power of all his subjects, to the end that he may be sufficient unto himself in seeking and bringing about the advantage of each individually and of all, and to the end that the state of the human commonwealth may be ordered in the best possible manner, seeing that each and all are members one of the other. Wherein we indeed but follow nature, the best guide of life. Liberty means judging everything freely in accordance with one's individual judgment, and does not hesitate to reprove what it sees opposed to good morals. Nothing but virtue is more splendid than liberty, if indeed liberty can ever properly be severed from virtue. For to all right-thinking men it is clear that true liberty issues from no other source. Wherefore, since all agree that virtue is the highest good in life, and that it alone can strike off the heavy and hateful yoke of slavery, it has been the opinion of philosophers that men should die, if need arose, for the sake of virtue, which is the only reason for living. But virtue can never be fully attained without liberty, and the absence of liberty proves that virtue in its full perfection is wanting. Therefore, a man is free in proportion to the measure of his virtues, and the extent to which he is free determines what his virtues can accomplish, while, on the other hand, it is the vices alone which bring about slavery, and subject a man to persons and things in unmeet obedience. And though slavery of the person may seem at times to be more pitied, in reality slavery to the vices is ever far the more wretched. And so what is more lovely than liberty? And what more agreeable to a man who has any reverence for virtue? We read that it has been the impelling motive of all good princes, and that none ever trod liberty underfoot save the open foes of virtue. The jurists know that good laws were introduced for the sake of liberty, and the testimony of historians has made famous the great deeds done for love of it. The practice of liberty is a notable thing, and displeasing only to those who have the character of slaves. Things which are done or spoken freely avoid the fault of timidity on the one hand and of rashness on the other, and so long as the straight and narrow path is followed, merit praise and win affection. But when under the pretext of liberty rashness unleashes the violence of its spirit, it properly incurs reproach, although as a thing more pleasing in the ears of the vulgar and convincing to the mind of the wise man, it often finds in the indulgence of others the safety which it does not owe to its own prudence. Nevertheless, it is the part of a good and wise man to give a free rein to the liberty of others, and to accept with patience the words of free speaking, whatever they may be. Nor does he oppose himself to its works so long as these do not involve the casting away of virtue. For since each virtue shines by its own proper light, the merit of tolerance is resplendent with a very special glory. A tyrant, as the philosophers have described him, is one who oppresses the people by rulership based upon force, while he who rules in accordance with the laws is a prince. There we are. A very thoughtful discussion on political mores, unsurprisingly quite appropriate despite the 900 something years since this was written. Something to think about. So thanks to John of Salisbury for his thoughts of the day. I hope you find this one interesting. Déjame saber en los comentarios. Claro, un texto poco más complicado, pero yo espero que ustedes puedan disfrutar. Entonces, hasta el próximo. From Medellín, it's Cheerio.